Well, welcome everyone.
Hi everybody.
Thank you for coming out today. My name is Rick Longinotti. We're here about the plan that the city has for the expansion of downtown to the South of Laurel District down as far as Depot Park. And we'll be explaining what that's about. But first, we wanted to invite somebody who is a veteran of earlier efforts to control our destiny when it comes to development in our community. In the 1970s, anybody was here in the 1970s? Okay. So you may recall that growth in our community was affected by a new university at UCSC. Silicon Valley was taking off, all kinds of companies starting up over there, putting a lot of pressure on Santa Cruz County for development. This county was growing at the rate of 4.6% per year, which means that it was doubling in population every 15 years. So there was a group of people who were concerned that the growth was sprawling onto farmlands and into the forests, and that the automobile was enabling, roads everywhere and traffic congestion. And so there were a group of people that got together to elect people to the Board of Supervisors. And by 1977, they elected 3 people to the Board of Supervisors who were concerned to try to not stop growth, but to manage it so that it would serve our community. And those people faced some pushback, and in the form of a recall. Now, normally a recall of a public official happens for malfeasance, some kind of really dirty stuff. This recall was pushed by developers who were not happy that these 3 members of the Board of Supervisors were interested in managing growth. And that recall was successful in recalling 2 of the supervisors. One of the supervisors was able to keep his seat. But at the same election in which that recall happened, these Gary Patton and others had put on a ballot measure called Measure J that was intended to control the rate of growth and to keep the growth within the urban service line, so it wouldn't be a sprawling kind of growth. Keep it within the boundaries of our urban services, such as water and sewer and so forth. And one really innovative feature of Measure J, which passed even though the supervisors were recalled, the voters did vote in favor of Measure J. One innovative feature, which was one of the first in all the country, was to require that in new developments and new housing developments, that 15% of the new housing developments be units that would be affordable to people of medium and low income. And that was copied all over the country in places where there's now so-called inclusionary requirements to include affordable housing. So we invited Gary Patton here today to just share a little bit of what it takes for people to come together and to affect the future. Thank you, Gary, for coming.
Thank you, Rick. My name is Gary Patton, and I am appearing here today as an historical artifact. As Rick has outlined, there was a time long, long ago in a universe that now seems so far away, Santa Cruz, California, where ordinary people made the decisions about what the future of our community would be. I would suggest to you that it is possible to return to those times. Now, I came to Santa Cruz in 1971, and I had grown up in Palo Alto, and then actually my family had moved to the mountains of Santa Cruz on Vine Hill Road outside of Scotts Valley. But I went to college, I went to law school, I went to theological seminary, and I came back here in 1971, and you might think, boy, this guy Gary Patton, I've heard about him, I think. And he must have been this great organizer. He must have really gotten people going. Not a bit. I was an attorney. I worked for $25 an hour. I barely was making it here with my wife and daughter. And there were groups in our community, and specifically in the city of Santa Cruz, and some in the unincorporated county, that were people like the people here this morning, who came together to try to make things be different from what it was clear they were gonna be. This is an example of what might have been. Well, something not quite that tall was proposed for Lighthouse Field. You know, people didn't like that. In fact, there was a guy, John Scott, who lived out there, I think on Plateau. I'm not sure exactly what street he lived on with his mother. He was a surfer. He only really had two things of value. He had a car and he had a surfboard. And so he was so upset by the idea that they were going to build a shopping center the size of Rio Del Mar Shopping Center, high-rise hotel, convention center, 7 acres of blacktop parking and condominiums for the extremely wealthy on Lighthouse Field, that he sold his least important asset, his car, and put a full-page ad in the Santa Cruz Sentinel and said, "Save Lighthouse Field, come to a meeting at this particular place," which was then an elementary school, and a group formed. I didn't even know where Lighthouse Field was. I didn't come to that meeting. But pretty soon somebody said, maybe we should get a lawyer. And some of you may know Catherine Byers personally, know of her. She's been the mayor. She's been on the city council a couple of times. She was a university librarian. I wrote her will. And she said to this group, you know, if we're looking for a lawyer, you know, I don't know. This guy wrote my will and he was really cheap. So they came and interviewed me, and I went to a meeting and I gave them a memo of several pages of everything that could possibly be done. And so the Save Lighthouse Point Association, Operation Wilder, a group of people formed to deal with saving the North Coast from a single development that was proposed in the city of Santa Cruz of 10,000 new homes, would have essentially increased the number of homes in Santa Cruz by 50% in one development on what is now Wilder Ranch, a state park. They were stopping that development. There were West Side neighbors. There were the Seabright East Side irregulars. They were the downtown neighbors. There were little groups of people all over this community trying to exert control over what their representatives, so-called, did, or were doing, or planning to do. The Lighthouse Point development was unanimously supported by the City Council. It was a joint project with the Board of Supervisors, unanimously supported by the Board of Supervisors. It was impossible to stop. Impossible. Nobody believed that we, ordinary people, could stop it. But we did. And, you know, Rick talked about Measure J, and I was asked to come here not knowing exactly what I was going to be asked to talk about, but I figured it was going to be like a historic artifact kind of a talk. And so I thought about Measure J as one of the examples of what ordinary people can do if they decide they're going to run the government instead of having the government run them. Measure J has a provision, and Rick is right, the inclusionary housing provision was not the first in the state, but it was one of the earliest. And the city has now increased its percentage up to 20. The county needs to do that. But there was another feature of Measure J, and I want to tell you about it. It's not something that directly affects the city, but we all benefit from it. And that is the provision in Measure J that said, you know, if you've got a piece of property that would be commercially possible or viable as agriculture, you know, you could grow things and make a profit if you grew crops on it. If that is the case, commercially viable land for agriculture, the only use that will be allowed in the county of Santa Cruz is agriculture. Now, if you think about agricultural land, it generally has water, it's flat. When we passed that, the people of Santa Cruz County passed that in 1978, June, the value of every piece of agricultural land in Santa Cruz County went down by 40% because the land was not being valued for its agricultural productivity. It was being valued for its speculative ability to be used for shopping centers, for new schools, for car lots, for whatever. And I was the author of Measure J, that the people of Santa Cruz County passed it. I was not very popular with the farmers. Because if you think about, you were a farmer, owned your own 20 acres, 40 acres, or even 100 acres, whatever it was, suddenly that was not any more valuable to the extent it had been before we passed Measure J. It had been depreciated by 40%. I was not a very popular guy. That didn't bother me too much, and there were very few farmers that voted for me. I retired after 25 years on the board in the end of 1994, officially the first Tuesday of 1995, after 20 years on the board. And there was a little ceremony, you know, when he retires a public official, usually a ceremony thanking you for your service. And so people came up and said nice things about me. And suddenly this person came up out of the audience from the Santa Cruz County Farm Bureau. And one of the really great things in my life, they came up to the podium and said, "We want to thank Mr. Patton, and we are giving him a lifetime membership to the Farm Bureau." And I just yesterday ran California Bountiful, their statewide magazine. I am a paid up full-time member of the Farm Bureau, but it's paid for by the Santa Cruz Farm Bureau, not me. Now, what happened between 1978 and 1995 that made it possible for the farmers in Santa Cruz County to actually salute me and think that I had done a good thing by being part of this effort to pass Measure J? Well, they realized that if the community had not acted, there wouldn't be any farmers. There would not be a farmer. They would have been wiped out because it would have been developed and it would have been gone. Now, check out Front Street. Picture across Laurel. Do we want to preserve and protect something, improving it perhaps slightly over time as demands require? Or do we want what you see on Front Street in the city of Santa Cruz today, virtually everywhere, and certainly right across that street?
No. No way.
If you don't want that, I'm going to give you my final remark. The lesson that I gave, I taught for not quite 15 years up at UCSC in the legal studies program. And I always told every student that went through one of the classes I taught, and I taught 4 or 5 different classes over the years, what I called an equation. And if you think about, if I had this used to be a school, it probably would have had a blackboard. No blackboard today, so you're going to have to visualize this. if you think about the word government, and you wrote it on the blackboard, that's what we're talking about today in the South of Laurel plan, stopping the skyscrapers. It's what decisions do our representatives, does our government, what decisions do they make that then decide what happens in the world? What gives us government? And I'm a lawyer. I was teaching pre-law students basically at UCSC. Law. The laws determine what the government does. But then where do the laws come from? I have this little, I call it an equation, 3 terms in order with one of those little arrows between the terms: politics, law, government. So my advice, and I'm here basically to learn as much as to teach here this morning, because I'm not deeply engaged in this project as I was, for instance, in the intricacies legally of stopping the development on Lighthouse Field. But I do know something about politics. And what I told you about how the community operated in the early 1970s, small groups of people forming together, meeting generally weekly, getting control. My governmental colleague, Bruce Van Allen, is sitting down there. He came and sat down next to me. He was on the city council in the old days. But the reason I think, oh, Bruce, yeah, he knows about data. He gets a copy of the voter list. And then he will tell you, if you're in politics, who voted. Are they Republican? Where do they live? How many times have they voted? What's their email address? What's their telephone number? We, in the St. Lighthouse Point Association, and all of these various groups, used the tools of politics to have our self-governing community pass the laws we needed and make the legal decisions we needed to govern ourselves correctly. If we want to stop this plan that we're going to talk about this morning as a community, we're going to need groups of people in what are now, if you see something on your table there, I noticed here's the Stop the Skyscrapers petition. And if you turn, I think it's to page 2, there are a list of city council districts, a new thing in our local politics. Most people have not yet figured out even what district they're in. And if you don't know, you should look it up online. You can do that, find out what district you're in. Take it from me. I was an elected official for 20 years. I have dealt with elected officials in various capacities. They don't usually, and the current council is certainly like this, they don't usually pay much attention to public opinion. They pay attention to the staff. They pay attention in our new configuration to the mayor. What does the mayor want? They don't have to do very much work. Let's let Fred figure it out. Let me just say, I was a politician. I got elected 5 times. I dealt with them. I then was a lobbyist in Sacramento, so I've done it on the state level too. Elected officials who have the right to make the laws and the legal decisions that then govern us, they will be afraid of you if you're organized. And let's be honest, it's not love and kisses. It's power. It's who's got the power in the community. I don't know if you've ever seen this wonderful song by Patti Smith, "The People Have the Power." If you don't know that song, if you haven't seen Patti Smith sing that song, go on your computer when you get home, type into YouTube, Patty Smith, people have the power, and you will be moved. We have the power, but we have to use it. We have to get organized. And if there is a group in every one of those districts, and they organize between now and when the decisions are going to be made on the skyscrapers across the street, we can win. And I hope we do.
Yes.
Thank you, Gary, thank you. So now Frank Barron's going to describe this project and what we can do to change the course of our future here. Frank is a retired urban planner, worked for the City of Santa Cruz, worked for the County of Santa Cruz, and he'll convey in very simple terms what this is all about and what we can do. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Gary. As Rick said, yeah, I'm a retired city planner, lived in the county since 1969, and I live down the street right now. Been in Santa Cruz, the City of Santa Cruz, most of the years since 1980, so I know I've been following what's been going on around here for quite a while. Gary mentioned about the laws. So unfortunately, for local control, the state has usurped a huge amount of our city council's ability to control this kind of thing. So this, as you may recall, this was proposed just next to the clock tower just a year ago. And it's still on the books. And the only reason it's not being built now, or it hasn't been, it's not going through the process, is because they haven't got the financing for it. It's not because the city council stopped it. The bank said, I don't think this is gonna work because you don't have enough parking. If they, somehow the banks decided, okay, it is gonna work, that would be going up right now in a 50-foot zone. So the zoning is, set for 50 feet. That's about right up to here, something like that. Look how much taller it is. That's because of one of these new laws. There's over 100 new housing-related laws that have been passed in Sacramento that take control away from the locals. There's no way the city council could deny this, as long as it meets the parameters of this AB 1287, Assembly Bill 1287 it's called. So it's 192 foot in a 50-foot zone. It's made possible because of this AB 1287. It's called the 100% density bonus, or the stackable density bonus law. So AB 1287 overrides height limits that the city sets. So you can basically go 2, 3, 4 times even taller than the height limit. So this one is 3.8 times taller than the city height limit. And like I said, it's on hold right now, but it could come back at any time if they get the financing for it. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the downtown plan expansion in SOLA? SOLA is the South of Laurel area. So this is the map. It's surrounded by the red line there. This is 29 acres. This here is Laurel Street. There's the river right there. That's the Kaiser Arena. This is Ace Hardware and like the Cruz Brewery or whatever it is. Front Street Pacific coming down. This is all Beach Hill over here. Coming down to the traffic circle and Depot Park right here, going up towards the police station there. So the idea is to add that 29 acre area to the existing downtown plan, which is all the area north of Laurel, going up to the clock tower and about a couple blocks on either side of Pacific. So that's the downtown plan. They want to expand it to south of Laurel. So Mayor Keeley, when he came in 2022, his first order of business was to set some parameters for this that were slightly reduced from what had been originally proposed by staff. So 1,600 units, mostly high-rise apartments, maybe a few condos, would be built, new units. A net 20% of them were to be below market rate, affordable. And the maximum height would be 12 stories, which was reduced from what previously 17 and 15-story buildings. However, in January of last year, AB 1287 passed, and that changed everything. So now, just if they institute the plan as it is currently proposed, you're gonna get more like 2,000, 2,400 high-rise apartments. Only about 15% of them would be affordable, and 20 to 30 story buildings are possible with what they're proposing. Yeah, and that's a state law. Okay, so next slide, please. All right, so this is what's currently and on the books right now. The zoning and the height limits are in this pink area, 35 feet, and then 36 in this blue aqua area and in the yellow, and then 48 feet along the river here where the Kaiser Arena is and Wheelworks. So that's the current zoning, but keep in mind with AB 1287, 3 times that height. So, currently you can do, this would probably be 6 to 9 stories potentially, and this would be, 10 or even 12 stories potentially, under current zoning. What the proposal is now is to raise the height limits to 85 feet in the purple areas here. So that is not just Wheelworks and Kaiser Arena, but also where Ace Hardware is, and where Lots Auto Stereo, the Firefly Cafe, Aloha Motors, if you know where that is, right here on this corner. All of that would be a potential for 85 feet is what they're saying is the base zoning. Multiply that times 3, and you have a 25 to 30 story building that could be built in any of those lots there. That's just ginormous. And then so that be 50-foot base zoning here, so you could get 3 times 50 feet is about 15 stories potentially. And then same with this would be 70 feet down here, so that's potentially 20 stories that if you multiply it by 3. So that's what they're proposing, and they proposed this before 1287 came into effect, so they weren't thinking that's what's going to happen. And now all of a sudden the ground has shifted. So next slide, please. So when formulating their plans, the city didn't anticipate that the state would mandate allowing heights 3 to 4 times higher than the city height limits. This is the new reality thanks to this AB 1287. This is the kind of thing that could be allowed. The city wouldn't be able to say no if the plan goes forward as proposed.
Can I interject really quickly?
Please.
I think it's very important to emphasize when you see these sort of mock-ups. My name's Zach. My jeans ripped on the way here, so I'm sitting down.
Don't make him stand up.
Yeah, don't make me stand up. It's okay. It's not too graphic. I've been working with Frank and Rick, and I won't even bother you with my bio. It's much less impressive than the other people who have spoken. But I just wanted to interject really quickly. When you see these mock-ups, I think the visceral reaction is one of denial. No, come on, hyperbole, okay, this is a little over the top. They're not gonna do that. Practically speaking, it won't pencil out, yada, yada, yada. I have read the EIR, which is the Environmental Impact Review for this project that the city staff put together. I didn't read the appendices, that's 800 pages, but I read 250 pages. It says verbatim, there is no practical height limit to this project. Verbatim, it says that. You must understand that. And in capitalizing on AB 1287, if you want to read that log, Google it, punch into ChatGPT, get the high-level summary. When they take advantage of that 100% stackable bonus, there is no height limit when it comes to how they want to add those units.
There is an actual height limit.
Well,
I'll explain that.
But in terms of 20 to 30 stories, that is very, very much possible, and you can't unring the bell.
That if you're creative.
You can't unring the bell. Of course, it's not going to be 100.
These guys at Workbench are very creative. The ones that proposed that original black card.
Especially for guys that have only built
Very
80
creative.
years.
Okay, so go ahead, next slide, please.
Yeah.
All right, so as I mentioned, the ground has shifted. So as Zach mentioned, there's been an environmental impact report done for this project. I'm not going to get into all the issues that we have with the entire document. We're focusing on this one issue that they did not take into account, AB 1287, the stackable 100% density bonus. So, okay, what you see here is from the EIR. We've enhanced it a little bit. So this is what they said, oh yeah, this is as big as it could get. This is like 10 or 12 stories. And it looks, it's still huge, but it's like, not as big as it could be under 1287. They didn't, in the EIR, they don't even mention AB 1287, let alone evaluate the impacts of it. So that's one of the huge problems with the environmental impact report for this project. And then we've pointed that out. We've submitted comments about that, and anyway, so I'll get into that more. But so what we did is we said, okay, well, really, it could be 25, 30 stories, so this is what that would look like. And so, next slide, please. So this is our computer enhancement of the new Anton Pacific building, which is about that tall. And this is making it from 6 stories going up to 22 stories. So 22 stories is still not even as tall as what we're talking about. That kind of height building could be filling this entire area here, south of Laurel, and also where the arena is. I mean, you could have even taller than that in filling up this entire area. Next slide, please. So the city is inadvertently planning to give developers the right to build 20 to 30 story skyscrapers in south of Laurel. It will be completely up to the developers. You know, once the zoning is increased, developers, like I said, like Workbench is very creative. There's ways to game the system where they can get a lot more than just, twice as high as the zoning. Next slide, please. Don't let the city council make this huge unforced error. It's an unforced error they're about to make. Next slide, please. It's an error because raising the height limits to 85 feet will allow multiple buildings of 3 times or more that height. That's 25 to 30 stories. So this is not out of the realm of possibility.
I will caveat, I was working, I was pressed for time. Those 2 buildings on the far right, that is zoned residential. That's not inside the red line of the plan, but the building heights and the density are very much within the realm of possibility. And one thing you should know is part of this omnibus of laws that have been pushed out of Sacramento because of I would say there's an affordability crisis. I don't think there's a literal housing crisis, but that's another topic for another time. One of those laws is AB 2097, that's a fun one, where we cannot hold any of these developments to a parking minimum.
All right,
So
it's an unforced error because raising the height limits is going to allow this. Next slide, please. It's unforced because the city doesn't need to raise the height limits to get the density required to meet our housing goals, our state mandated housing goals, and to get a new Warriors arena. I am actually pro Warriors. I was at the playoff game. I like the Warriors. I hope they stay. I don't mind stadium. I know there's a mixed crowd here that has different opinions, but that's my personal opinion. And the Warriors have indicated that they could do their entire project, get a new stadium, get all the housing we need, to meet our state goals, with 7 to 8 story buildings. There's an article about this on the table there. I've handed out a few of them. You may have remembered if you're on lookout, it was about a year ago, but they did come out and say that they could do it for 7 to 8 stories. So if that's the truth, there's no need to raise the height limits because you can do that now. So this is, this is actually from the Environmental Impact Report, or maybe from the Downtown Plan Expansion proposal, Appendix 8 it is. So anyway, this is kind of what it would look like. It's like 5, 6, 7, 8 stories maybe, with nice plazas and stuff, and a big new fancy stadium arena, and it's multi-use. It's not just for the Warriors. Next slide, please. So let's not give developers a permanent entitlement. This is what this would be, to build 20 to 30 story skyscrapers in Santa Cruz. If the city council goes forward with the plan as proposed, they will have a permanent entitlement in those 85-foot zones that I've mentioned. They will forever be able to do that, and it'll be up to them, or the banks. They're gonna, all they have to do is, submit something, the city won't be able to say no. Anyway, so there's no way to downzone it. The only way, you can downzone with these new state laws is you have to upzone somewhere else by an equal amount. So once you have upzoned it, once you've gone from the 48 feet to 85 feet, you can't go back. So it's like a ratchet, you go one way, but you can't go back. Only go up, or stay where you are. Next slide, please. Okay, we need you guys, and we're doing this too, to tell the city council not to raise the height limits as planned. 6 to 8 story buildings can still be built under existing limits, which is tall enough to meet the city's goals, including the regional housing needs allocation. And so this, it's still a huge shock to a lot of people, but as a city planner, this is the kind of stuff we like, I think I would prefer it to be smaller myself, but I realize that there's nothing we can do about that. That's already baked in. The existing zoning allows this, and there's no going back. Like I said, it's SB 330 if you want to look it up. It's Senate Bill 330 says you can't downzone. So that's already baked in, and To me, that's not too bad, but some people I'm sure don't like that. Next slide, please. Okay, what can you do? How can you get involved? And I wanted to mention that our group is Santa Cruzans for Responsible Development. It's just an ad hoc, informal group. We just, say, hey, what should we call ourselves? Anyway, but as far as we're concerned, you're all part of it if you want to be. We have you sign in, we got your email. We'd like to keep you informed. We have this petition that we need people to sign. We won't be sharing email addresses, but with the city council, but we would like to, send off to the city council saying that we have a petition that's been signed by X number of people. So what can you do? You can attend and comment on the upcoming, in 2 weeks, April 17th, Planning Commission hearing on this project. They're gonna go and meet and decide whether they should recommend to the city council to approve the project. And the environmental impact report has not even been completed yet. They're gonna be doing this without a final environmental impact report.
Where's the meeting?
This is at the city council chambers, it'll be 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 17th, like 2 weeks from today, or I don't know if it's today, but anyways, it's coming up very quick. The staff report for that meeting should come out either the Friday before or maybe the Monday before. So this is all happening very quickly. They're really fast tracking this for some reason. Our comments, said they should completely redo the environmental impact report and recirculate it for comments, because they didn't take into account AB 1287, a huge deal, and they're just like saying, oh, it's not a big deal, it's not, and so they're doing this very in a slapdash way and a very expedited way for some reason, and so we're saying, hold everything, you need to really look at this AB 1287 and the impacts it would have. So we would like you guys to say that too, to the Planning Commission. Don't make any recommendations without seeing the final impact report at least. Then they're hoping that the final environmental impact report will be released on May 3rd, 10 days ahead of when the city council would approve it on May 13th. So that's their schedule right now. We'll see if that sticks, but so that's, it's very, very fast.
They're speed running it.
Yes, and they're trying to make it so that people don't notice, I guess.
Yep.
That's what it seems like. I mean, it really does. So please contact the mayor and city council. They are the ones who have the final say on this project. Here's where you can contact them. I'm sure most of you know this already, but you can just go to their website and you can write one email to all of them at once. Letters to the editor and op-eds. I've done a couple of those op-eds. Letters to the editor are great too. So Lookout, Sentinel, Santa Cruz Local, Good Times.
You nailed it. That was pretty good.
And then social media, I forgot about social media.
Well, social media, there's a number of, I'm sure half of you are involved in half of the groups on social media, right?
Pointing to our token millennial here.
Yeah, right. I'm the diversity hire. There's Reddit, obviously, there's nextdoor.com, there's Facebook groups, you're from Santa Cruz, although that's been changed into some weird new name.
It's only temporary.
I think it's a joke. Like January 6th release. But anyway, there's a number of Facebook groups and Nextdoor groups and Reddit, Santa Cruz Reddit. These are all forums where, I always say about the Santa Cruz Reddit, right? There's probably, like everything else, 1% of the people are creating the content. There's 74,000 people on that Reddit. So there's a bunch of eyeballs quietly paying attention to the tenor and the pulse of public opinion. So it's important to be heard consistently and everywhere. But the most important thing you can do is sign this petition and also reach out to City Council, including Mayor Fred Keeley. So there's a swell groundswell of voices saying we are very, very concerned about
And that's
this.
that last bullet point there. Thanks, Zach. So the message, the basic message is you don't need to raise height limits. The height limits are good where they are. You're still going to get those pretty pictures that we showed of the 5, 6, 7-story buildings. You're going to get your new arena. Leave the height limits where they are, and next slide, please.
And maybe stress again, we're going to meet our housing goals too with those existing.
Oh yeah.
We're going to have plenty of room with the
Yeah,
existing
for this
zoning.
arena meaning regional housing needs allocation.
Plenty.
For this one and the next one. The next one starts in 2033 or something.
Yeah.
2032. All right, so next slide. This is the QR code. If you guys are interested in the petition, you can use that. The next slide. And then, and this is, okay, Gary was mentioning your city council person, if you're in the city. These are the districts. So we got Renee Golder on the far west side and all of, along West Cliff there. You got Chevra in the kind of upper west side, going down to Steamer Lane area, and part of the Laurel, South of Laurel area. I'm in that district. Then you have Scott Newsom as Beach Hill, Beach Flats, and going downtown area, going up towards Mission. Susie O'Hara up at University in Upper West Side. Gabriela Treguero, I think is how you say her name. And she's over on, like the Banana Belt area, as they call it, and then kind of the east side. And then Sonia Bruner is also east side, Seabright area. So, anyway,
Take a photo if you want.
some people like me are kind of on the edge of one or the other. You have to kind of figure out which one you're in. And let's just go to the next slide real quick. We'll come back to this one if anyone needs. Anyway, this is the list of projects that's on the city website. There's a ton of development happening in Santa Cruz because they upzoned back in 2012, and with those upzonings along the corridors you may have heard of, you can go down now, and now you can do the AB 1287, and you can go way up. So there's going to be a lot of big developments all throughout the city, but it's too late for places that have already upzoned. That's why at South of Laurel it's not too late. We still you don't have to upzone.
Thank you, by the way, for coming.
Oh yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank.